Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to a new edition of the Sports Shop 27. I'm your host, Jermaine Coulter. And to my far right, I got my main man, Kevin Johnson, KJ, former Clemson cornerback from 99 to 02. And today's special guest, we got a Wolfpack in the house, former North Carolina State wide receiver. This guy was all-state in basketball in high school, had 46 points in the championship game, can jump out the roof. He was also a specialist with the punt return and kick return team in North Carolina, played from 87 to 89. We'd like to welcome today's guest, Mr. Chris Courtness. What's going on, Chris?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, not much, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Really we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Definitely.
For the people that don't know you, Chris, let them know where you're from and a little bit about your background.
Born and raised in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Of course, that's the home of Pope Air Force Base, Fort Bragg. I was actually born in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, at Mack Army Hospital. But I was raised in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I'm the youngest of four. I have three older brothers. My oldest brother was 14 years older than I. Named Maurice Porters. He actually passed away, but in a lot of respect, I think he may have been the best athlete in our family, simply because he was a high school All-American. I didn't reach those heights.
Okay.
So, God rest his soul. And then my brother right after that, 12 years old, he was a basketball guy, and the one closest to me, 8 years old, his name is Antonio.
Okay.
Fayetteville is, you thought it was big back when we were growing up, but it's about, it's a city of about, 200,000 people, real close knit. Everybody seems to know everybody, and especially if you're in the sports world, all the athletes, we all know each other. We all follow each other. Of course, when we play against each other, we're out there trying to kill each other, but it's nothing but respect. So,
cool.
I love growing up in Fayetteville.
All right.
Hey, so what age you start playing sports, and what sport was your first love growing up in Fayetteville?
Well, it's so funny, I ended up playing football in college. My favorite sport was baseball. I was a really good baseball player. From ages about 10 to like 14 or so. I was one of the better baseball players, not just, in my school, but in the region.
Okay.
And I thought I was actually going to play professionally.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, as you get older, as you grow, you get bigger and stronger. And then, like I said, my oldest brother was a football player. So, of course, they're looking at me like, I know you're going to be like your older brother. Like, well, I really want to be like myself, but of course I had to give football a shot. And football was, put it this way, baseball was my favorite sport. Football, and I hope this doesn't offend some of the guys who played. Football was a sport that I didn't necessarily have to put a whole lot into. It was just, more of a natural thing. And I credit a lot of that playing with older guys. I didn't always play with guys my age. I always played with guys 3 or 4 years older. Of course, there was a lot of fear, especially when you're starting to play either sideline bus in the street or we playing, we out there playing tackle football up at the high school. So I think a lot of that, really, really pushed me to be good at football. But baseball is my favorite sport, and I became a pretty good basketball player too. I was a late bloomer in basketball.
Okay.
Terrible as a young person. Terrible, and pretty decent in middle school. But then in high school, I started to get more into it. Put a little more effort into the skill development, and became pretty good in high school. So.
Okay.
Had an opportunity actually to play college, to participate in college sports in those 3 sports.
Cool. Brian Bullock says, my dude,
All
Yeah,
right,
that's
what's
my
up now?
guy, man. Me and B grew up together. You know, we lived in the same neighborhood, and where we grew up is like it's called Broadale Homes Incorporated. And strange thing about that is that our neighborhood, our high school was right in the neighborhood.
Okay.
It's E. Smith High School, right there in the neighborhood. It's maybe a rock's throw from where I live. He
Mm-hmm.
was probably like 5 or 6 blocks from it. Then of course Fayetteville State University was about 5 or 6 blocks from where we were. And you got Methodist College and all that going on. So yeah, B was my guy, man. Actually, he was responsible for me getting to NC State.
Okay.
Believe it or not.
That's what's up. Shout out to Brian Bullock, former Sports Shop 27 guest from
Oh yeah, great
2022.
gift.
Yep. So let's talk about your development. Who was the coaches or the mentors that develop your skill set in those sports that you participated in?
As far as mentors go, um, Brian was one of
Okay.
them. I can honestly say that. You know, to do and accomplish in football, especially. Look at coaches too, like my basketball coach, Ike Walker, who passed away a few years ago. He was real instrumental in not just my sports development, but just in my personal development. Then I have
Yep.
to give some credit to my high school football coach. You know, he'll probably say, yeah, quarters is a hard nut to crack because there were some times where he tried to push me into being a quarterback,
Wow.
to be frank. And I could have played quarterback. I had a really good arm, I was a good athlete. But here again, you look at 19. I was in high school from '83 to '87. So how many quarterbacks in college look like me?
A lot.
Then of course we
Mm,
all aspire. I mean, the three of us. I'm pretty sure we had a dream of playing professionally. How many guys look like me in the NFL? I mean, there were a handful, but I'm only like I think I'm about 6'2". I might not even be that, but of course, you look quarterback, either you're 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 215, 220. I was never going to be that. So I
Okay.
just decided to say, you know what, have enough athleticism to play another sport and just, wide receiver just kind of felt natural.
Yep.
yeah,
So I do have to credit my high school coach. He actually pushed me and he told me this. Because by the time I was a senior, I was like I said, I was a really good basketball player. And I was considering going to college for basketball.
Mm-hmm.
He told me this. He said, Quarters, there are a lot of kids that are 6'2", 6'3", that can run, jump, and shoot and handle the basketball like you, but you be unique playing football. I looked at him kind of funny, and I'm like, unique? I'm like, there's some other cats out here who look like me and probably play better than me, but I took it to heart and I said, well, why not? Let me go ahead and give that a shot. So, those guys were, like I said, were real instrumental in not just my sports development, but my personal development. And I thank you for that.
All right. So let's talk about 1980s. You were going to high school in the 1980s in Fayetteville, North Carolina. What was the atmosphere there? What was the culture like in your city at the time? Was it more predominant a basketball state? North Carolina brought a lot of stars from basketball, football as
absolutely.
well. But just talk about the culture and the community that you came from.
We look at the state of North Carolina as being back then it was more basketball, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
but the region, the Cape Fear region is pretty much what Fayetteville is, Lumberton. Um, you have Sanford and cities like that, and there were a lot of really good football players to come out of that area. And honestly speaking, there were a lot of guys that say, you know what, when you come to Fayetteville to play football, you got to bring your hard hat because, it's going to be a long night. So
Okay.
football actually became the norm, and like just in the city alone. I mean, you had E. Smith, where Brian and myself attended, Terry Sanford, crosstown rival, Reed Ross before it turned into a classical school, another school that, with perennial powers. Then you had 71st, who won 2 state championships when I was in high school. They actually played Greensboro Page to a tie and then ended up beating West Charlotte my senior year in '86. So that area became known more for football, at that point in time. But then you fast forward to 2023, football is down in that area. Basketball is king.
Okay.
It is king now, but it was basketball was still a sport that everybody traveled to look at,
Mm-hmm.
but football made the money. It's
Okay.
still the money sport now, and it was then, and that's what people kind of gravitate to.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, so you got an opportunity to play in the Shrine Bowl. Talk about that a little bit. The Shrine Bowl.
Wow, and that was I actually got a chance to play in the 50th Shrine Bowl. So that was 1986. And what
Whoa.
made that so special, like I said, my oldest brother, he was actually a 2-time All-American in high school. He played in the 35th and 71. So, there's not a lot of, people who could say, they played in that game, the same game that the sibling played in. But that was a great experience, to be selected as one of the top 30, 35, players in the state of North Carolina. With, I thought I was decent, but, to hear that call from my coach saying, Porter, you've been selected to play in the Shrine Bowl, I'm like, wow. I was real pleased with that, and actually got a chance to start. And, considering that was the top 30, 35 guys, and you're starting wide receiver, that was fantastic. And the other guy, the guy on the other side of me, you guys probably heard of him, Yancey Thigpen, was the other star.
From the Steelers.
The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Titans.
Yep.
And, if we would have played 3 receivers, in that ball, in that era, Chip Wellborn would have been the other. Chip Wellborn was actually the state player of the year. He was the top wide receiver in the country. And that guy ended up playing defense in Michigan, which turned out to be pretty good for him, but, unfortunately, he was injured and wasn't able to really pursue the NFL like he did. But that whole Shrine Bowl experience was fantastic. The game was great. The best part of it was actually going to that hospital and seeing those kids, you see, you kind of take it for granted. A lot of us consider, we can get up, walk around, run and jump and do all those things. But then you look at those kids who can't do it.
Yeah.
And it was a humbling experience for one. And two, it puts things in perspective. Like, you just never know when things may turn out like that for you. So, kind of humble yourself, even though you're playing in this game. Make sure you take this game and you deal with it in the manner that you need to.
All right.
Good advice.
For everybody that's
and hold up, on that game too, we end up all that offensive talent. We ran the ball, I don't know, probably 60 times. And a teammate of mine, my high school teammate of mine, Everett Norwood, ended up winning the MVP of that game. He set the record for rushes in that game at the time. I think it was something like 36 to 37. He ended up rushing for like 160 yards. And nobody west of Fayetteville knew a whole lot about him until that game. Of course, everybody in the Fayetteville area and the surrounding areas knew about that young man. And we ended up losing to South Carolina too.
Oh,
that was a loss.
Man.
Well, nonetheless, it was an enjoyable experience. It was a great week.
That sounds great.
Who was the MVP of the game? Can you remember who was the MVP of the game?
Yeah, and this kid, like I said, he could. You look at if I could compare him to somebody now, um, he was a Dalvin Cook. He was a Dalvin Cook type of back.
Okay.
I mean, he wasn't quite the pass receiver that Cook was, but as
Okay.
far as the size, the speed, the maneuverability, I mean, the kid, 6 foot, 200 pounds, then
Mm,
was just unbelievable.
yeah.
So, of course, you want to be MVP of the game, but still, you look at your partner and he picks it up. That was just as good.
That's what's up.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Did
good.
you did you play both sides of the ball in high school before you went
I
to
did,
Sharpe?
I
Oh,
did. Ninth,
DB.
10th grade, I played a lot of safety, a lot of free safety and corner.
Okay.
Okay.
And my senior year, I played some, but I was kind of looking ahead, like, do I honestly want to give college? And you guys know this. You start, you play a certain way, you're a certain type of athlete. These college recruiters will look at you and say, you know what? Yeah, I know you're a quarterback, or I know you this or that, but you could probably play something else. And UNC was one of those schools who looked at me, and granted, I was an all-state wide receiver. And the first thing that the recruiter said to me was, "Man, you play defense too, huh?" I'm like, "Yes, sir, I play defense, but I don't think that's something I want to do in college because I heard a lot of the horror stories about how practices were for defensive players. I mean, and then I get to NC State, and I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit, but I get to NC State, and of course, as an offensive player, a lot of our practice we already running, but once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we look back at the defensive guys; they are still out there running. I'm like, God, I dodged the bullet. Didn't
Yeah.
want to didn't want to play defense in college, but and I was a good defensive player too. I probably could have, looking back now, I probably should have given it a shot, but I
Hey,
was just so, hell
hey,
bent
what,
on
what,
being a wide receiver.
excuse me. Hey, what you don't like about it? You don't like all the backpedaling, that you got to backpedal and stuff like that?
Hey, I mean, the
That's what I ain't like,
backpedal is fine
man.
because I move really well. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that I credit that to good genes, playing with older kids when I was growing up, and
Yeah, that
great
helps.
coach. I could do it. As a matter of fact, my sophomore year, I intercepted like 9 passes.
That's a lot.
So, I could really read defense. I could read quarterbacks,
Yeah,
really read what offensive players were going to do. But defense, man, you got to bring it to play defense.
Yeah.
you
I
do.
did. I was a physical guy. I like to hit, but at the same time, I'm looking at it long term. Like, is that something that could be sustained? And I mean, we look at it now. Guys with these with the CTE and all that.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
kind
That's
of glad I decided not to do it, but at the same time, you be an offensive player, still face that.
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I want to say you did the right thing, man, by playing wide receiver because that's what I wanted to do as well coming out of high school, man. But like I said, coming from Oklahoma, I was in a new area. I mean, I had to take what was given, saying like at the time, but I wanted to play wide receiver. And what you were saying just now, looking at the long term of it, man, if I can do it all over again. But at wide receiver, it depends on where they put you as well, too. That slot receiver, you come across that middle of the linebacker waiting on you. You know what I mean? So
Yes, sir.
it's a hard decision to make, but overall, outside receiver, just running, doing regular, posts, deep balls, things like that, that's what you show on your highlights, man. So yeah, I'm with you on
And,
that, man. You did the right
and
thing.
to that point, when you bring up going across the middle, I didn't do a lot of that in high school. Even though, again, like I said, high school, I topped out at about 200. I played at about 195, 200 pounds. So talking
Oh,
in the
the weight.
1980s, that was considered big for a
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
receiver.
man. That was
But also
NFL rated.
I was a 4.5 guy too, so I was fast.
Okay.
And then on top of that, I had some wiggle. So, I had the ability to make the first person miss. I made the first person miss all the time in high school.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah.
our route tree wasn't such where you were running these shallow crosses and these digs and all that. I never
Mm-hmm.
ran a whole lot. I didn't run any of that. I ran like slants and goals. My
Slants
route
and
tree
goals.
was limited, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like I couldn't run.
Yeah.
But by the time I got to college, those very routes that we were talking about, ran the shallow crosses, I ran the
Oh yeah.
OTBs, I ran the digs,
Yeah.
and actually I enjoyed it.
Okay.
But you got to keep your head on the swivel, man. When you start to run, you start to
Yeah.
run across the middle of the field
What
because I
could be your
played
last
against
game?
guys like Ken Swilling, Pat Swilling's people.
Mm-hmm.
And Pat Swilling was a linebacker for the Saints, 6'4", 250. Ken was like 6'3", 230 as a free safety, not a strong safety, free safety. I'm running
Oh
18 to 20-yard digs on that.
Steve Atwater sign.
wow. Man.
So Brian Bullock said he made people look stupid trying to tackle him.
Brian might be giving me too much credit. I mean, I was able to make some folks miss, and I can say this. I end up suffering a couple of knee injuries prior to my junior year. I suffered one 7 games into my sophomore year against the Clemson Tigers on national TV, returning the punt, which you all have a picture of that.
Yeah.
And after that, of course, my game had to change. I didn't have a whole lot of that stop and start, type of movement. Once I got going, I was good, but I just didn't have the same type of ability
Agility.
to elude tackles at that point.
Okay. So when you played basketball in high school, you guys won the state championship, correct?
Let's say that again.
When you played basketball in high school, you guys won the state championship?
My sophomore year, we played the state championship against Hunter Huss, and our team was one of those teams that we like to get up and down the court. And that particular game, that team decided to run the UNC, the good old field four corners. I mean, slowed the game way down, and the game was like 39-36.
Okay.
That was the final score. We were scoring like 75, 80 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of lets you know what type of offense that, we had. And then the very next year, we were actually number one ranked team in the state. We were a top 10 ranked team in the country. And we didn't get to the state championship. We actually got to the regional final. And of course, we got that particular year, we got a little headstrong thinking that we're gonna make it, and we should have. We should have actually won a state championship. We didn't. We ended up losing in the regional final to a very good Raleigh Broughton team.
Okay.
Yeah. So coming out of high school, talk about the recruitment process. I know NC State. I know they was looking. I know they picked you up. What other schools was looking at you at that time?
I was recruited late by Duke and Wake Forest. Again, you can credit Brian Bullock for really pushing me to play at NC State because if I look at what was there at Duke, Steve Spurrier was the coach. Had I not, had I looked at it sooner, that's probably where I would have gone. But those two schools, Clemson, didn't throw the ball enough, man, back then. They were just they ran that option. I mean, it was nasty. I mean, it beat up a lot of people. It didn't beat me but one. It beat me one time.
Yeah.
I ended up, I came on the winning side of that. But Clemson was the school. I got recruited by Georgia, West Virginia, East Carolina,
Okay.
and actually East Carolina was one school too that, actually recruited me for baseball first. that I could be a baseball player first and actually play football.
Oh
And
yeah.
if it came down to it and I could actually do it, they said they would give me a shot to play basketball. So, that was kind of hard to turn away from too. But then I looked at the NC State situation where, they put the ball up a little more than most schools did back then. And, as a wide receiver, you want the ball. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to be doing all
that,
that blocking.
and then the culture, I look at my man, Brian Bullock, he's showing me around. Haywood Jeffries is another guy at the time. He was actually on his way out. So, that's an he was a first round pick in '87. So I looked at that. I played with two other NFL guys, and Danny Peebles and Naz Worthing. Those two guys were just as instrumental in my positional development as my position coach, Jimmy Kaiser, was. And my position coach was a great guy. But, you look at two guys who are NFL bound, and I was a solid route runner, and I relied on a lot of athleticism when I first got to NC State. Then, of course, you look at the guys that are playing defense, back to the point of running across the middle of the field and all that. I didn't have to play against the Clemsons and the Georgia Techs of the world to find that out. I practiced against my own guys and had a rude awakening my freshman year.
Whoa.
You dominate the guys that you come in, with, your class. But just as soon as the upperclassmen come in, now you're going up against sophomore, junior, seniors, and some of these seniors are fifth-year guys. So I was about to turn 19. I run up on the corner, Isaiah Jenkins, who ended up playing in the league for like 10 years himself for the Eagles. And he was just as big as I was, but you don't find corners that bench press 420 pounds.
No.
So you try to get off a jam with a guy who not only bench presses 420 pounds, he's an All-American track guy.
Oh man.
So he's an All-American in the 100, 200, 400. So I was fast, but I wasn't like him.
World class fast.
I wasn't going to outrun him. And then, as soon as he jammed me up, he just simply told me, said, Chris, you know what? You can't do the same thing kid did in high school. And that's the only time I needed to hear that. So then that's when I started looking at, Naz Worthing, Danny Peebles, how they practice, the way they, ran, routes 1 through 9 and how many different ways they could run them. I paid attention to that and I actually became more of a technician. I had to, after I got hurt. So, I couldn't rely on athleticism anymore. So, hats off to those guys for actually being there and showing me the way.
All right. So what did it feel like when you got your first start? Did you start right away when you got the NC State? Did you red shirt? And then I know you played special teams. When did you enter in the special teams? You did that in high school and transition that into college? Or that was just something that the coaches saw in you with your athleticism and say, hey, this guy might be a good, punt return or kick returner as well?
See, the special teams, that was easy in high school. Of course, you don't have the same size and speed running after you, after punts and kicks. I didn't return a ton of kicks in high school, but I returned a bunch of punts. I was one of the leading punt returners in the state. And, of course, there were punters who, punted high, and, of course, you had to adjust to that. But, that was a bit easier in high school. Now, back to the question you asked me about, did I consider redshirting? Pride wouldn't let me. Pride honestly wouldn't let me because, I looked at some of the guys and, I had some good teammates and there were some solid guys at the position, but 85 to 90% of the guys, whether they were redshirt freshmen or upperclassmen, I was a better athlete than they were. So I looked at it like, if I handle my business, then the rest of it will take care of itself. And it just so happened that Nas Worthing guy that I mentioned, he was suspended my freshman year.
Mhm.
So that opened the door, for some other people to play. Um, but there was a senior Mack Jones who was really good, but he had faced a whole lot of injuries during his career. So, he was kind of like a shell of himself, even though he was really good, that year too. But with Nas out, I'm looking at it like, well, man, I get an opportunity to play. So I ended up making the travel squad. But the first couple of games, I didn't play.
I understand.
So I'm thinking at that point, I kind of wish the transfer portal was in back
Yeah,
then
tell
because I strongly considered transferring. I'm like, man, this is really not what I signed up for. And I thought, if I weren't good enough, that would have been one thing.
Mhm.
But, I was good enough. And maybe I didn't know all I needed to know, but let me play through that. And again, I end up playing a bunch of towards the end of my freshman year. End up having a big game against and scored touchdowns against North Carolina. I scored a touchdown against my friend in that Clemson Tiger, Donnell Wolford, as a freshman in Tiger Stadium. That's my guy though. That's my guy.
Yeah,
But I
you had
got
to
him.
get them though.
Yeah, I had to get him. And then I had like eight. I had eight for like 130 against Virginia. So my freshman year ended pretty good, but I didn't return a whole lot of kicks and punts that year. But the following year, of course, Worthing comes back. Now I'm looking like I had actually had the best spring, even with Worthing and Peebles there. And I'm thinking, these guys are back. So where do I fit in?
Mhm.
And my position coach was like, well, you're gonna play a lot. And I ended up being not just behind those two, I was behind two other guys. So that's when you saw me return punts. So I
Oh,
said, I did that in high school. So maybe I can parlay that into something too. At least I'm on the field, at least I'm touching the ball. I can impact the game some kind of way. And,
Mhm.
for a while, I actually led the ACC in return and, number of returns and return yard average. So that was refreshing up until the point that Mr. McDaniel kind of ended my season. So that's kind of how I got to playing special teams.
okay.
Hey, what other schools in the ACC gave y'all some competition? I know Clemson, one of them, and a couple other schools. What other schools was it? Florida State? Did y'all get? They give y'all some competition?
But
Of course.
we didn't play Florida State now. Florida State was
Right.
independent then.
Oh, okay. All
Um,
right. Y'all played them. All right.
believe it or not,
Two.
Duke they gave us
Sure.
all the smoke, man, all the smoke. Clemson
Wow.
was always a tough game, even though, ended up playing 3 years in state. I didn't play as a senior. I beat Clemson twice, but they were all close games. Well, yeah, the two games that we won were close. The game that I lost was I never beat Virginia. Never beat Virginia.
No.
Yeah, they
So
tough. They
Virginia,
tough.
Duke, Georgia Tech was tough too.
Tech. Okay.
Maryland was they were in the ACC too. They were pretty tough too.
Oh yeah, Maryland. Yep.
Um,
Played as well.
yeah, man, those teams were really good, and those teams actually they were full of NFL guys too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need to tell y'all that the Tigers they were loaded, man.
Yep.
They were
Yeah.
loaded. Levon Kirkland, Wayne Simmons,
Wow.
John Johnson, Dexter Davis,
Yeah.
Mr.
That's
McNeil,
NFL defense.
you name them, they were there, man. They were there.
Yes, sir.
So that league then, and it's pretty decent now, but ACC was tough then. It was really
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get into some highlights for everybody that's watching. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, like and share. We have former North Carolina State Wolfpack wide receiver Chris Quarters. We're gonna go ahead and get into these highlights. Chris, stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay. All right, we're back. We don't own the rights to that video or the music. Chris, you remember that game?
Dude, I do. And what I failed to mention earlier about that particular game, and you probably wouldn't believe this if I told you. Now that particular year, we went 4-7 in overall. We were 4-3 in the league. We were up 30-0 in that ball game against the top 10 team. Now the final score ended up being 30-28 because our coach Dick Sheridan, and he and I can say this, he and I had some differences, when I was there, but you look back on it and he was actually right. And I can admit that, I had some things that I needed to, straighten up. But, he was one of those guys like, 30 points, yeah, that's enough. But then you look at, a team like Clemson, even though they ran the ball a bunch, that option a lot of times was just as good as an intermediate pass, the way that they ran it.
Okay.
I mean, Rodney Williams, he was okay running it, but then you look at guys like Terry Allen, Weston McFadden, those guys were really good running the football. And their offensive line was excellent. And, they made it a game. And honestly, and I scored in that game. And, honestly, I couldn't believe it when I scored. And, of course, I scored on my boy. And I look at it like we got a shot at losing this game after being up 30 points.
Mm.
And nobody gave us a shot to even win that ball game. As a matter of fact, I went to that ball game like, I don't know if we're gonna win it. But the year before, Clemson was higher ranked than NC State. State wins 27-3. That was Brian's senior year. He played in that game. So that was huge. But then that team wasn't like the one that I played on. I mean, it was so much better, in '86, the year prior, the year that we played in there, where those highlights were. So, that game was, that was one of the best football games I played in, even though I didn't play a lot. I played maybe about 12, 13 snaps. It wasn't many. But, I ran, in practice, it was just a lot of out and ups and stuff. And, of course, me being a bigger guy, an athletic guy, coach felt like, I had an advantage, even though I'm going up against a Thorpe Award-winning finalist in Donnell Wolford. So, I was fortunate enough to come out, on the positive with that touchdown and helped us win that ball game. But
Okay.
you can't be up 30 and then almost lose.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That was Clemson's first loss that season, right? I heard those guys said they ain't undefeated no more.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
You know what? That was, I think that was their first loss. Actually, that was their first conference loss, but they had lost the week before to Florida State, I believe.
Okay.
That was when Deion Sanders kind of like beat on his chest and said, punt it to me, that kind of thing. He ran it back like with a 76-yard punt return.
Yeah.
So they had lost the prior week. So, we're coming in. Of course, we're down. They're looking at us like, you know what, we getting ready to beat up on these guys. They probably should have.
Okay.
They probably should have beat up on us, but
yeah, it didn't happen though.
We started rolling. Our running games got it going against them, and I was really surprised that we're able to run the ball against them. I knew we had an opportunity to kind of, impact them a bit in the pass game, but to be able to run against a top 10 defense, they were a top 5 run defense.
Mm-hmm.
So, for us to actually, 4 or 5 yards a hit, running the football, that was surprising, but that's kind of what got us over the hump.
Okay.
So when you look at the Tar Heel schedule every year, what team y'all have to beat? What team is that you got to make sure you beat them before the end of that season? Is that the Tar Heels?
Oh, that's easy, man. Yeah, we got to beat them. We got to beat the Tar Heels.
All right.
And And it was especially, it was especially so for me because, and I can say this now. I almost went to UNC. If it were not for that, for Bobby Kell, he recruited me. If it were not for him saying, Quarters, you play defense too. If he would not have said that, I'd probably been in Chapel Hill, to be honest.
Okay.
It would have come down between State, Carolina, and had Duke come early, it would have been between those three schools.
You missed out on a good player.
Knowing that those guys tried to recruit me and play me on defense, I said, you know what? Whenever we play them, I'm gonna give it to these guys.
Yeah.
And the 3 years that I played, I scored on them every time. I actually scored my first career touchdown against them. 27-yard seam route. Very next year, out and up, that was the one that I was fully extended over number 7, Dan Vulovic, who's another good friend of mine. And, of course, years later, he and I always talk about that play. And he's like, yeah, 3. He called me 3. He didn't call me Chris. He called me 3. He said, yeah, 3, you was just a better athlete than me. I'm like, that could have been the case. But at the same time, my ball skills were pretty good. So, ball was in the air, the 50-50 ball, I was pretty good with that. But then that next year, 89, I only played one half. 2 touchdowns, 7 receptions, 123 yards. Didn't play the last 30 minutes of the game. Didn't play the last 30 minutes of the game. I actually gave up another 30-yard touchdown to one of my teammates. So he was like, yeah, coach wants you to run. I said, nah, I said I had enough for the day.
Dang. You took yourself out?
So, yeah, I had to make it a point to get those guys. But again, we're 23, 24 miles apart. We run in the same circles, we party with each other.
Okay.
And before that game, I said some things in the newspaper I thought were positive. I'm like, these guys are really good athletes, but at the same time, in the secondary, they're like extremely young and they're inexperienced. So maybe we could take, advantage of that, at certain points of the game. And then I get into the ball game, they're like, Chris, I can't say what they said to me, on air, but they start saying those things. I'm like, hey, where's that coming from? But then I automatically had to change, had to change mindset. So you know what? If that's the way you guys think, then game on.
There you go.
Let's go. Let's go get this.
Yeah.
Turn up.
Did you ever get to face against Dion?
No. And you know what? The guy who recruited me in NC State, Buddy Green, he actually was a coach at ECU, and ECU was independent too, for a long while. So ECU played Florida State. And I asked him, I said, Coach Green, I said, is Deion Sanders, I was like, is he really that good? He gave me this funny look, and he said, he's not just good. He's like, he's great. He's like, he was like the best athlete he'd ever seen, best defensive back best corner he had ever seen. I mean, when he started talking about the speed, the recovery, just flat out straight line speed, the recovery speed. And of course, Deion wasn't a small guy. You're talking about another 6'1", 6'2" guy, about 190, 195, and a 4'2" guy. What am I personally gonna do with that? As an athlete, you look at it like, yeah, I want to play against a guy like that. But at the same time, I'm like, he was 2 years ahead of me, so I'm already like, if we ever got a shot at playing against this guy, I'm gonna be a little fearful of that. Wow. And of course, we look at it now and we say, yeah, he was that dude. He was that dude.
Yeah, man.
Do I wish I'd have gotten a few snaps against him? Absolutely. But the next best guy was the guy right there at Clemson, South Carolina, was Donnell Wolford.
Yep. You're right.
You know, and I had a little bit of success against him, but I don't know if I would have had any. Matter of fact, I probably wouldn't have had any against Deion, to be honest.
I understand. Well, we're going to go ahead and get into some more highlights. Got some more catches to get to. This is North Carolina State versus North Carolina. You out there giving it to your boy from North Carolina. For everybody that's watching, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Follow us on YouTube, share, like. Also follow on Spotify, Deezer, and Facebook as well, and Instagram. All right. We don't own the rights to this video or the music. You guys stay tuned. Chris will be right back. All right. We'll go ahead and get into this highlight.
This rivalry produced one of the wild shootouts in ACC history. Eric Kramer and Naz Worthen hooking up with about a minute left to take North Carolina State to a 35-28 lead. But the celebration was only temporary because the Tar Heels stormed back behind Mark May. His rifle shot here to Quentin Smith in the corner of the end zone pulled the Tar Heels to within 1 point. They elected to go for the victory, not the tie, and went for two. The tight end of the bottom of your scheme trips as he tries to get out of the backfield, can't regain his feet in time to make the play, and he's ruled dead at the 8-yard line, and so are the Tar Heels, a 1-point loser to the Wolfpack. Then last season in Raleigh, North Carolina's offense couldn't score a touchdown, so their special teams did the job, scoring here their only touchdown of the game en route to a 17-14 victory over the Wolfpack. Live this afternoon from Kenan Memorial Stadium, nestled in the Pines here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, the 78th renewal of this intense rivalry between North Carolina State and North Carolina. Loss of a yard, 2nd and 11. Montgomery will throw it now. For the end zone, oh! Timmons mugged one of the receivers, and the flag comes flying. Varn and Crichton in the backfield. Montgomery guns it for Varn, touchdown. Third and goal. They're 2, 3, and third down conversions. This is a big one to convert. Ball's in trouble. Vincent has it. North Carolina State blitzed from the corner spot. And a very big defensive play for the Wolfpack. Drops him back at the 14, a loss of 13 yards. Hamp Green will come on from the 17. It'll be a 27-yard attempt. He hasn't missed from this distance yet. But he did now. Boy, as momentum breakers go, that is a big one. North Carolina State holds, and then they miss the field goal.
Third, about 3.
He'll try to throw for it. Harrell's wide open. The tight end, nobody saw him. He's got it at midfield now to the 45 of North Carolina before he is brought down on the far side. Damon Hartman on to attempt what will be a 45-yarder. He's 1 of 1 from this distance. That's his longest, 45 yards. He hasn't made one any further out than this. 59 seconds left in the quarter. He'll try to make it 10-0. It's on its way. And he nails it. So Hartman converts what they will officially call a 44-yard field goal, and North Carolina State takes a 10-0 lead with less than a minute remaining here in the first quarter. Here comes the blitz. Hall flips it out too late, incomplete. Intended for Eric Blunt, and Fernandez Vincent was there. So North Carolina's field goal unit will have to come out and try to dent the scoreboard. So Hamp Green, who missed a gimme earlier, has been lifted in favor of Gewaltney, and this will come from just shy of the 19, or the 24. It'll be a 34-yard field goal. And he knocks it right through there. Williams, big hole left side. He's into the clear. Williams into Carolina territory, dropped at the 35-yard line.
They're going to blitz. No, we're backing out of the blitz.
Here they come. He's thrown into the end zone for Quarters. Well, great leaping catch for the touchdown. Chris Quarters, 20 yards for the score. He beat Voltage in the corner of the end zone. What a
a tremendous catch this is. The ball is actually underthrown. Vuletic had great coverage. He was right stride for stride with Quarters. The ball was thrown just a little bit behind. Quarters adjusted to the ball. Vuletic didn't. 6 points for NC State.
For the Tar Heels from their own 32-yard line. All with time. Down the middle, that's intercepted. I believe it's Stone. That's who it is. Well, you went to the well once too often. 2 Wolfpack players were there vying for the ball. They had the best chance at picking it off.
NC State tried to go deep to Peebles. Look for them to come back and do that again sometime soon.
Down the middle they go for Worthen. He's been effective crossing over the middle all day long. All right, 3rd and goal. Tyrone Jackson in there at the tailback spot, number 43. They give it to Crite. Touchdown. Mal Crite goes in from a yard out. May will try it again. Under pressure, has it picked off by Stone again. That's his 2nd of the day and his 3rd of the season, and he made a receiver-like grab. He was fully outstretched when he corralled that one with 12 seconds left in the half. He hasn't even attempted one of more than 50 this year. So you won't know whether he has the leg until you see him launch it. It's on its way. It's good. A 54-yard field goal from Damon Hartman as time expires. A brilliant first half for the Wolfpack of North Carolina State. He's mobbed by his teammates. Here's a guy who was recruited by North Carolina as a soccer player. He went to North Carolina State as a football player and comes back to haunt the Tar Heels here in the first half. Jackson is out of there. Todd Varn, number 15, replaces him.
Don't be surprised if they go to Varn.
In the end zone, Worthen, touchdown. Second and 20 for Dean's man. The big freshman, he guns it, intercepted by Brooks. He may take it. He gets a block. He's inside the 20 and run out of bounds. Back live, the people that never quit cheering for their team. North Carolina State cheerleaders have a lot to smile about today. 34-3. On the other hand, for Carolina, it's been a long day. 34-3. But they're still at it. So a young defense for North Carolina has their confidence sinking a little bit further. Jackson trying to get outside, heading for the goal line. Touchdown! 6-yard touchdown run for Tyrone Jackson. Davenport's going to keep it, and he hurdles for the touchdown. Charles Davenport, the young quarterback.
This play made famous by Gary Anderson when he leaped over 2 Miami Dolphin defenders. Davenport gets close to the goal line, and rather than put his head down and take the shot, he shows what a tremendous athlete he is by going airborne, a la Gary Anderson or Walter Payton. That was a great leap.
That'll do it. 48-3. North Carolina State wins this one. North Carolina had won 8 of the last 9 in this rivalry, and they carried Dick Sheridan off. He's won 2 of 3 as a head coach at North Carolina State. Mack Brown, on the other hand, his first in this rivalry of what most expect will be many more to come, and all of those much more successful than today. So a tough loss for Carolina, big win for North Carolina State.
All right, we back. Old Mack Brown, former North Carolina Tar Heel coach, went to Texas, won with Vince Young, and came back from North Carolina. He's back there now. So talk about him a little bit. Did he have good offensive schemes or defensive schemes against you guys? I see you guys ran them over 48-3, so probably not that year, but all the previous years. What type of coach was he in your conference?
Who you mentioned again, coach wise?
Mack Brown.
Oh,
He's
you know
back.
what? That's my guy. Mack Brown is my guy. My sophomore year was actually his first year at Carolina. He kind of inherited a mess, to be honest, because prior year Dick Crum was there. Dick Crum had been there forever, and Carolina UNC was another one of those teams who ran the option a bunch too.
Okay.
So, when Mack Brown comes in, he tries to go. He keeps some of those option principles into his offense, but at the same time, it was more. He tried to go more pro style, and with Jonathan Hall, who I think he was a junior at that time, he had been through a couple of shoulder surgeries. His arm wasn't necessarily what it was in previous years. So trying to get the ball downfield, kind of was a challenge at first. But again, they had solid running backs. They had really good receivers. They just so happened to play. They had a schedule that was murderer's row. They're playing Auburn, schools like that. I think they played Oklahoma. We of course, Dick Sheridan wouldn't dare put a team like that on the schedule. I think the best that we got schedule wise might have been we played Pitt and we played South Carolina. But Mack Brown, and I said this early on. I said, give them about 3 or 4 years, Carolina's going to make some noise. So you're talking about from 88 to about 91 or so. He took his lumps.
Okay.
But after that, until he left to go to Texas, he had nationally ranked teams.
Yeah.
He had really good offenses, great defenses. I kind of wish he would have stayed there, and I wanted to see where that program was going to go. And just to go back to the recruiting piece, had Mack Brown been in Carolina, Chris Quarters would have been in Carolina.
Okay.
I love Mack Brown. Mack Brown is a terrific guy. He had nothing but positive things to say about me, going into the 88 and the 89 game. And, of course, the other coaches had some good things to say too, but he had the most to say, the most glowing remarks, it just, it really encouraged me, to continue to go on, even though at that point I knew that college was probably about as far as I was going to go. I had aspirations of going to the league. I was actually on the radar. I probably would have gotten drafted in either 90 or 91 had it not been for at least the second injury that I sustained going into my junior year. Not saying I would have been like, first or second round pick, but who knows? I could have been. But I'd had an opportunity to play professional football, and that's one big regret. I look at some of the guys that, I played with that made it, some of the guys that I played against. That back to the Carolina team, I look at Torrin Dorn, another guy, another friend. Torrin Dorn was a running back for the first 3 years he played at UNC. In 89, his senior year, my junior year, they play him at corner.
Wow.
Of course, I give him the business, though. I gave him to him. But this guy ends up playing 10 years in the NFL. But, and of course, he played with the Raiders to start with. And, Raiders are always drafting speed. He was another 4.3, 4.4 guy. But to be raw out there, just to all of a sudden move from running back to corner's hard to play.
Yeah.
And then when you're playing against, at that point, I was a good receiver, with, of course, my athleticism was not what it was. But, I was a smart guy, too. So he was going to have some challenges trying to face me man to man, but he ended up parlaying that into a really good career. So, that had everything to do with Mack Brown. Mack Brown, wish I could have played for him.
Okay.
Really do.
What was it like playing seeing Sterling Sharpe and Robert Brooks? I know you played during that era. Talk about that a little bit.
Dude. Now, that's a funny story, too. So the week leading up, I saw Sterling Sharpe play on TV, but TV is one thing, in person is completely different. So leading into that week that we were going to play South Carolina, all I heard was, you hear about this dude, you think he's Superman. And I'm like, is it really like that? They're like, oh, man, Chris, this dude is like, he's like the best. So opening kickoff, we kick off for them. He receives the kickoff. He proceeds to go 98 yards for a touchdown. But they say he steps out about the 40-yard line. I don't believe he stepped out. And I'm looking at this guy actually walk by him. I'm like, this cat is big. Sterling Sharpe was big.
God. Yeah.
He wasn't tall. He and I might have been about the same height. We're talking about a 215-pound guy back then, and was fast, was elusive, was smart, could catch the ball. I wish that he'd have never sustained that neck injury because he was a Hall of Famer. And, Jerry Rice is my dude.
Yeah.
That's why I switched from 3 to 80. That was the reason why I changed numbers, because I idolized the ground Jerry Rice walked on. But he was just as good.
Yep. He actually led the league in touchdowns and yards one year over Jerry Rice.
Oh yeah.
The year before he got hurt, he led the league in touchdowns and yards reception. And I can't remember what year it was. Go ahead, KJ.
Go ahead, man. Hey, talk about the bowl games though. Your time there, the bowl games at the end of the season. Do you have some good bowl games y'all participated in?
Let's see. The first year we weren't bowl eligible because we won 7. 1988, that was my sophomore year. That was the year I actually got hurt, and we played in the Peach Bowl. I had to watch. That was painful to watch. We ended up beating Iowa like 27-24 or something like that. It was a close game. Of course, the Big Ten football team. And back to the recruit just real quick. I was actually recruited by Purdue too, so I could have played Big Ten football, but nobody gave us a shot in that ball game simply because they were a Big Ten team. And was Iowa big? Yes. Were they strong? Yes. Were they physical? Yes. But I don't think they, unless it was like Michigan or Ohio State, we were another team that actually had speed, and we could, we can kind of act a whole lot of that size that they had. But again, I had to sit and watch because I had a blown knee. Now the next year, we ended up playing in the first Copper Bowl. But I had knee surgery like 2 weeks before the game. So I'm wondering if I'm even going to play. And of course, having knee surgery, I'm not sitting there working out trying to, keep myself in shape. I'm actually in rehab mode trying to get to the game.
Oh yeah.
So I think I played like 10 snaps. I end up, running. I think I ran like a post route. And at the end of that route, this was like in the first quarter, it was almost like somebody threw a piece of fruit and hit me in the back of the leg. And so I'm looking around like, did somebody throw something, hit me in the back of the leg?
Yeah,
and then I started to walk, and I realized I got a torn hamstring.
Damn.
So that was my bowl experience. I mean, I didn't no stats, no nothing. I mean, the most enjoyable part is, I got to see quite a bit of Tucson. Got to enjoy my teammates. Met some good guys because I played at the University of Arizona. Actually, the few plays that I did play, I went against Darrell Lewis, who was another. He was an All-American. He was actually, I think he was a third-round pick of the Oilers. So he
Okay.
played a while too. So it was good to just get in and mix it up with him for the few times that I was in. But
Yeah.
my bowl experience was not what I would have hoped or what I wanted it to be. But sometimes it is what it is. God doesn't make any mistakes.
No, we don't.
It was not meant for me to go 4 quarters in that ball game. It was just, it was just a blessing to have made it, to watch it, to experience it with my teammates.
All right.
That's my bowl experience.
Oh yeah.
So bring us up to speed. What is Chris Quarters up to these days?
These days I have a personal fitness and sports performance business called Fourth Quarters Sports Performance. Well, fourth quarters fitness and sports performance. So I do a lot of work I mainly work with wide receivers,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I actually, I work with defensive backs, linebackers too. Try to stay within my wheelhouse, because a lot of these young receivers here, I look at them, of course, like imitates art. And they look at some of these guys on TV and they try to do a lot of these things that these guys
Yeah.
do, and I'm like, they're professionals. You can't do that.
Yeah, you got to get there.
You don't need to do it because a lot of it's just too much. A lot of it's heavy. So, I work with a lot of middle school and high school guys here, and some college kids too. But I'm also the wide receiver coach at a private school called Metronana Christian Academy in
Okay.
North Carolina.
All right. If someone what?
Third year coming with them, we got a great head coach and Thomas Lang. He gave me the opportunity to come over, and coach at the private school. Initially I thought, I coach at public school too, and it's just it's like night and day coaching public versus private. And I was just wondering where I was going to fit in, if I was going to fit in, and how I was going to be received. And it's been nothing. So,
if someone wanted to join your camps or your trainings and fitness, what do they have to do? Where do they go?
You got to sign up. Mm-hmm.
Say that again.
If someone wanted to sign up for your training facility, where would they have to go?
Oh, and I haven't done. I had an online presence with GoDaddy.com at one point, but you can reach out to me on lessons.com. I mean, I got a profile on there. I've actually turned down a bunch of stuff because I do more than just sports performance. I actually I have certifications in self-defense, functional fitness, running, speed, agility. I'm actually a nationally certified strength and conditioning specialist, ISSA as well. And I may need to go ahead and reset on GoDaddy just to have that platform out. But lessons.com, they can reach out. That'll be the best way to do it right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you have any message for the youth? Any message for the youth?
If you're sports, if you're an athlete, make sure you're coachable. You know what I mean? You might not be the best athlete because there are only very few folks out here that are really good athletes. Somebody's got to be able to receive some coaching, receive some constructive criticism, what have you. Those who can receive it and apply what's being told to them, those are going to be the ones that actually take it further. Those that can't, and I've been in that boat where I didn't actually listen to a coach. Well, I thought my way was best, and it wasn't. So whatever guys before you tell you, that's gospel. And you take it and you run.
Right. Okay. Any shout outs? You want to like to thank anybody for your journey and to get you where you're at now? Any like coaches, family members, friends, mentors, teammates?
Shout out to my man, B. Bull, Brown Bullet.
Okay.
Lifelong friend. You know, he and I have been knowing each other 40 years.
Okay.
Years of long time friendship. You know, that's a guy that, you know, whether we talk sports, relationships, life, this guy always keeps it 100 with me. I keep it 100 with him. And I gotta give my high school quarterback credit too. Connell Maynard. He's the head
Okay.
coach. Alabama head man. It's that would actually help decide to get one of the bigger jobs. No, but I think God has a back great feet. Shout out his brother Craig Maynard, who's my best friend on earth. Shout out to my high school football coach named Sharpe, who always kept 100 with me and taught me how to be a man. I can say this about my mom. Back passed away back in April.
Come closer to the mic. I can't hear you.
Yeah, see it.
Yes, it's going out.
And you know, she's actually been my biggest influence. So shout out to her. God bless her soul. Give a shout out to Monroe.
All right. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show, Chris, man. We love to have you back on. It was a great time speaking with you. You got a lot of knowledge for the position, and I know you coaching up those kids in North Carolina up the right way and trying to get them to the next level. If you guys want to reach out to Chris Quarters, you can reach him on Facebook if you want. Sign up for his camps or training facilities. We couldn't really hear you at the end. It was kind of muffled. But we'll bring you back on the show and we can talk about something more, another topic more in depth. But for everybody that's watching, we appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit that like and share button. Also follow us on Spotify, Facebook, Deezer, and Instagram as well. All right. We'd like to thank my main man, KJ, Kevin Johnson. Also, today's special guest, former North Carolina State wide receiver, Chris Quarters. All right.
Hey, man, thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it.
For having me.
All right. All right. All right, guys. You be safe out there. And it's not how you start, it's how you finish. All right. We'll see you next time. And you guys have a good night. Peace.
Sure.